Hey, welcome to Jack's Off Podcast. We are once again joined by Jack Mandeville, the guy in front of you right now, and Scott Davidson, co-creator, co-host, co-producer, executive producer, head writer, main man. Scott Davidson, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Scott, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you today? I got way too many credits, by the way. I can't even, I'm going to reduce it down to one thing. I'm just happy to be here.
Scott, I feel like every time we do this, your collection is bigger and bigger in the background.
That's the thing I'm trying to, if you noticed, I'm trying to do that on purpose now. I'm literally like, let me keep adding shit and see if anybody noticed until it's like the Sanford and Son front yard. So like everyone's gonna be like, what the fuck is going on back there? I want to be a complete disaster. Like you'll notice next time I'll have something different there. I want to see you actually do like where's Waldo thing.
Yeah, one of these days we're going to tune in. It's just going to be, it's literally going to be,
not even me, just going to be,
it's going to be Lawrence Taylor just standing behind you like, oh yeah, paying him just to hang out.
That's all we're going to do. Well, at least we'll pay him. We'll get some good stories out of Lawrence Taylor. That's what I tell you now.
Our guest today is, he's an author. He is an Army veteran. He is currently working for the Boeing company. There's actually a lot of meat to it, and we're going to cover it all. Flo Groberg, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Scott. Glad to be here.
You're looking really handsome, like you're dressed up for Thanksgiving or something like that.
Yeah, this is the problem with corporate America. Actually, this is called, Seattle dressed up. So a little shirt, little polo. But I have this motto, which is dress up like you're going to work every single day. So that way it gets my mind set and ready. I even actually steamed this shirt this morning. My wife made fun of me for it, and she's in her PJs doing her work. But I told her, I was like, I'm trying to act like I'm actually going somewhere in my life. And so this is, the process going through. So she's just kind of giving me a thumbs up, said, do you, which is apparently, according to this post I just made, one of the 10 things that are not good from your wife or your spouse. I think it's actually number one. So, but hey, I want to say, Scott, I thought you were a Cowboys fan.
Oh my God, that breaks my heart. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I gotta always represent, at least for the Redskins, with all the stuff we do. But a couple things I always want to do. So if you can see, and I hide it depending on where it is, I have to have my home New York Jets in the back.
Oh, hold on now.
Oh, bring me some Jets love. I'm gonna be so happy. There you go. You and I have suffered together for so long, Flo.
No. I'm just I'm a rookie in all this. I do. Adam Gase is one of my closest friends. So I did stuff with him with the Dolphins for 3 years, and now I'm helping him with the Jets. This is sort of like my passion, my fun stuff. So I got.
That looks like one of those limited. That's like a limited edition hat, isn't it? It looks like one of those.
Yeah, it's a nice one. It's white.
I'm just going to point that out here. My personal hero, he's going to have to be there. He is the head, the original man that's changed everything for the game, the original best Jet ever. That's all I'm going to say.
Pretty good player.
Little bit, right?
That's right.
I'm even more happy now, Jack. I don't want to say anything else. The interview's over. Thank you for joining us.
It's been great, guys.
It's been great. We got Jets fans. We're good.
I thought we were here to talk about tennis, so I'm a little disappointed.
Well, hey, you want to talk about tennis? Think about Wimbledon. They've been paying $2 million a year for 14 years of insurance for a pandemic. They're the only one that's done it. And they just got paid out over $140 million in insurance money because they couldn't have the tournament this year. Think about that genius.
Good for them.
Think about that genius. Yeah.
All it takes is
we're in the wrong racket.
Yeah.
What are we doing wrong?
Good for them, though, honestly. I would imagine that's a very old sport and a very old event. I would imagine they have a little more infrastructure than something like the NFL or something like that, which is comparatively a lot younger to professional tennis.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, speaking of that,
they're smarter too, apparently. So that's all.
Tennis obviously is very popular in Europe. It's a European sport, and I think that would be a good segue into opening it up with you, Flo. I think one of the most intriguing things about you is you spent the first half of your childhood. You were born and raised in suburban Paris.
I was. Yeah, I was born in Poissy, France, which is right outside of, Paris. I lived in Achères, and I lived in the 14th arrondissement, which is, district in Paris. And so, to be honest with you, it was an interesting childhood. I lived in Spain for about a year in between that, but for the first 11 and a half years of my life, I was in Europe. Never met my biological father. And my mom, my actual mom, that many of you have met, is my aunt, biological aunt. And so her sister was a little bit young when I was born, and she just couldn't. She actually couldn't, take me in. So instead of going to a foster house, my mother now, my aunt, so it's so confusing. Adopted me, and then a couple years later, she met Larry, who's from, of all places, Gary, Indiana. Yeah,
now, he grew up in Gary, I'm assuming, during the hot years before things kind of got a little rough around there.
Well, today is his 82nd birthday, so I would say yes.
He's there during the Michael Jackson years when things there's a lot of jobs to go around. Yeah.
Crazy story about that. Since you brought up Michael Jackson, my dad used to take the train from Gary to Chicago, and obviously Michael Jackson and his brothers and family's father was on the train. And so when he'd come back to Gary at night, my dad used to give like a couple pennies or a dime to this group of kids who were singing, waiting for their dad to be done with the shift, and that was Jackson's.
No.
So
the Jackson 5.
Yeah, he would have been in his 20s or 30s probably his 30s when they were young, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, he's born in 38, so
yeah, he would have been well into his career at that point. That's interesting.
Been around a long time.
They're local legends, and so I want to learn more about Larry as we get into. You lived in France till you were 12, and that district of France, from what I understand, is kind of a lot of French Algerian around there, correct?
So Achères, where I lived and grew up, it's just immigrant central, right? And everybody's French, but a lot of Algerians, Moroccans, Senegalese, people from Africa, people from Portugal, all around. And so it's diverse, it's unique. It's also it wasn't the best of neighborhoods or little area. I grew up, and you just spend 90% of my time outside of the house, right? Whether it's school, and after school you play sports, or you're outside in a park, and got into a lot of fights.
Yeah.
But it was cool. I mean, I enjoyed, my childhood. But I'll be honest with you, no matter what I didn't have, it felt like I had everything, right? It was pretty impactful to me.
At that age, I would imagine if, you don't know how much you're lacking, you only know what you have. So you probably appreciate, any fun that you can have.
Yeah, except I didn't appreciate my dad. I did appreciate it, but Larry, after he met my mom, so I was about three and a half when he met my mom. And he was for years living still in the U.S. and going back and forth. He traveled for Motorola.
So he was working in Paris.
Yeah, he was working in Paris. He was doing a lot of my dad's job when he went and did deals, right? Like he oversaw projects, right? So he would go and spend months in those places. So my entire life, like going through high school, he was gone at least 6 months out of the year, like on business. And so that's how it kind of worked out with us anyway. And he got to spend a lot of time with us. But every time he went to the US and came back to France, he brought me a gift, like tennis shoes, like a Magic Johnson basketball, T-shirts, hats, whatever, right?
Right.
And then I would wear that stuff because I was an idiot outside. And all my ghetto friends would be like, yo, I want those Michael Jordan shoes. So
those are just as hot in Paris as they are in New York City then.
Yeah, I got in so many fights because people were just trying to jack my stuff. But I'm assuming Larry finally convinces your mother to come back to the States. Yeah. I think he got enough of France. He's just said, like, let's take this to the next level. He came in my room. I'll never forget this. I was playing Nintendo. I was actually playing Punch-Out, one of the greatest games in Nintendo. And he came in my room and he asked me, hey, do you want to eat McDonald's whenever you want? What a guy.
That's the
True
most
story.
American question you can ask.
And I love it. I'm looking at him like, at this point, like I stopped playing the game. Like, yes. He's like, and do you want to meet Michael Jordan? Because, obviously Michael Jordan was so famous and like, the ultimate athlete in any sport.
International. Even little Kim Jong-un, who's the same age as us roughly, he was a huge Jordan fan.
I mean, I think Jordan could have not Rodman, but if Jordan went out there, he could create peace around the world.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. Just show up. Be like, this is over, right? And everybody be like, yeah, it's cool. We're good. We're friends.
More important than the Secretary of State in a lot of ways.
Oh, 1,000 times more important than that. Yeah, but it's sadly. But reality is, he asked me if I wanted to meet him, and I said, absolutely. He's like, well, if you move to the U.S., you get to eat McDonald's and you'll meet Michael Jordan. And just like that, man, in like a minute, my loyalty to my country, my friends, my family went out the window for McDonald's, probably a Big Mac, and this guy, Michael Jordan, which, I did meet. But I met him because he walked in front of me like 10 years later, randomly. Okay. So he lied to me about that piece.
Wait, but did you at least get to eat McDonald's whenever you wanted?
Hell no.
I was going to say, I mean, you have a good figure, Flo. I imagine you've always had a good figure. McDonald's every day would ruin a child.
I don't know if it ruined. I would have loved it, but I just came in, man. When I got to the U.S., so we moved, and I got to the U.S., it was so shocking. I mean, I visited, right? I've been here on vacations and stuff, but it was so shocking. I live in Palatine, Illinois, suburbia center.
Yeah. And I would imagine that's outside of Chicago then.
Yeah, 45 minutes northwest. Okay. And brother, we lived in this like townhome. He had a townhome there. And I remember walking out of his townhome and trying to figure out, where's the bus? Where's the metro? Where are people?
Yeah.
I was so in awe and shocked because I come from a city. This is my entire life. And here I was in this world where like there's literally no one outside, or maybe like a person walking a dog. It was so eerie. And then the cars were all so big. I know it sounds crazy, but you know this. They're smaller in Europe. And so like you don't have big like, Chargers, right? Or my dad's Oldsmobile was like a tank.
Right.
I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. It was crazy.
So you're 12 years old. Did you speak a lick of English at that point?
Nope. I mean, when my dad came up with the idea of and proposed the idea of moving, my mom was very good about it. She kind of did a town hall with 3 of us. Then she kicked one person out, which is my dad. So then it was just my mother and I. And she's just like, "Do you want to do this? This is the consequences." And I wanted to move to the U.S. Right? I mean, it's even in France, the U.S. That's like the golden place, right? That's like
really
absolutely. I was just like, this is amazing. This is where all the cool stuff are happening. All the it's Disney, Disney World.
Chicago is a well-known city.
Yeah, Chicago is a well-known city. Great food, been there, loved it. And so it was an easy sell for me. I also was young enough that I didn't realize the true impact of moving, from a different nation. So for 6 months, I started taking some English courses. But I mean, honestly, I knew 12 words, 13 words. But I came here, I was very, I was not fluent at all and actually didn't know much. So that was a very interesting time at that moment.
Was that to you? I mean, I don't seem you, just in general, you don't seem to be someone that gets intimidated. But for even at your age, would you feel like you still have the confidence? Because like you're still walking in big United States essentially, but you didn't speak the language. Did you feel like, all right, this is going to be terrible? But how did you feel about that? You feel like, it wasn't even a thought that you're just going to learn it and you're going to go?
No, I mean, the only thing, I came in full confident, excited as a child, right? You don't really think about these things as 11, 12-year-old, right? You're just thinking about, this is cool, like different country. But I did get scared after I watched my first episode of Barney. That fucked me over a little bit. Yeah, I was just like, what is this big ass, dinosaur, purple dinosaur singing creepy songs to children? And that's when I started thinking, like, Jesus, like, is this a nightmare? Is this what people, they tricked me.
How different's TV there? I mean, did you see, what were the shows? I mean, that had to be astonishing too, to see a Barney from what you were watching. Yeah, what's the difference there you saw?
So like, most of the shows, like I mean, there are all sorts of crazy shit in France too. But like, I watch like Dragon Ball Z. I watch. There's a lot of soccer, like like Japanese type of cartoons, but like in French, but like soccer and stuff. I watched that. But we also had like Care Bear or stuff.
Now,
but yeah.
Moving to Chicago, you were in WGN land. You didn't get freaked out by Bozo the Clown at all?
Man, I don't, dude. First, I don't look at clowns. I can't do clowns.
Which the clown, as we know it, obviously there's the American version of the clown, but it evolved from the French mime.
Well, I'll tell you one. Yes, it did. Marcel Marceau. And by the way, a great movie on him called Resistance. You should watch this movie on this guy. He.
Writing it down.
Yeah, it's called Resistance. It's the guy that did play Mark Zuckerberg in Facebook, the actor.
Yeah.
He plays him. It's an incredible story about this Jewish French guy who smuggled Jewish children to Switzerland, and he against the Nazis, and it's unbelievable story. And then he became the most famous mime in our history. Even bigger than Chaplin. So. But no, I don't do clowns because I grew up with a family where my mom allowed me to watch Platoon at the age of 4. So there was definitely, and while she's smoking a cigarette and probably drinking vodka and maybe giving me some. And so like a movie like
very
It,
French.
Yeah, a movie like It was okay to watch as a family on a Saturday night. And to this day, I can't stand clowns. Like it is, it messes me up. So most of the clown can go fuck himself. That's what he could.
So that's a good question. So that's a good question. You were watching Platoon at a young age. So you're in the States now. Obviously, you're getting there during very important formative years, your middle school years. Did you find it easy to make friends in that area? Were you able to integrate as well as obviously someone new to the language and culture can?
Well, I had some disadvantages. Obviously, language is one. 2, I was short, like incredibly short. I didn't hit a growth spurt to my junior year of high school. I was 5'1" as a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you know how that is, especially in the U.S., man. But what I was good at is I was national champion in judo in France when I came here. So I was a fighter. So anyone I wanted them, and I actually grew up in the streets. Literally, that's what I'm going to say now because it just sounds cool.
But American kids and the suburbs especially do not operate at the same level as kids from London and Paris and Madrid do.
No, like
it's a lot more physical in Europe in a lot of ways.
Yeah, when I fought, I fucked you up. Like I'll take a rock and smash your brains in. Like when they fought, they push you and scream at you and laugh. No, I went in for the kill, and so that was very shocking to people. But thankfully, I only had to do that once. Well, no rocks, nothing. But so I was tough, but it was just I think a lot of kids just made fun of me. And then, but because of the language barrier, but then when it came down to sports, I earned a lot of respect. To be honest with you, I was blessed because I could play sports, I could fight, and I was a pretty decent soccer player. And obviously in the end, ended up being a track athlete in college. So that was a huge equalizer because at that point people stopped, looking at you for your weaknesses, and they're like, "Oh shit, this guy, he doesn't speak English, but he's a good runner. He's a good soccer player." So that helped. But I mean, I got into it with some folks. I got put in a locker freshman year of high school.
That is stereotypical high school.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I fit in perfectly. It had so much room. Took a nap in there.
You definitely you can walk in and out there, no problem.
But that guy regretted it. I learned about keying cars at that moment. But anyway, it's a long story.
So to put it polite, you were a wiry kid when you needed to be.
Yeah. I just didn't, you could mess with me, but I hit back. But it was cool. But really, I went through a tough period when I was just about 12 years old, going my 13th year, when my uncle was killed in Algeria. And so this is really one of the most interesting part of my life because people don't realize. So, I mean, you just look at me, but half my family is Arab, right? Half my family is Algerian. And my uncle, who was my favorite person in the world, aside from my parents, he was killed in 1996 when he was fighting against the terrorist organization called the GIA, right? Predecessor of Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
Were they a regional force in Algeria? Or
they came into Algeria, yes. So what they were trying to do is they came in late 80s, early 1990s, and really started, they wanted to change, bring Sharia law.
They weren't Algerians then.
Some of them were. I mean, but some. It's not. But they were coming in from different parts of Africa and different parts of the Middle East, and they came in and said, "This is ridiculous that women can wear mini skirts, smoke cigarettes, and go out dancing." Right? I mean, that's what my mom did. She drank, smoked cigarettes, still does smoke cigarettes, and drinks today. Right? It was it was a different world, and these folks came in and they were like, nope, can't have that. So they tried to take over the government. And then they did take over the government, but illegally. And the army stepped up, and my uncle, who wanted his entire life, right? He was young when he was killed. He was 22 years old when he died. So but his entire life growing up, he wanted to be an imam. He wanted to be a preacher of the Muslim faith. And so when these folks came in and started, killing people and scaring people and terrorizing people, he said, well, they're taking my religion, the Quran, and they're perverting it and creating this false, teaching. Mm-hmm. And so based upon the Quran, my jihad is to go fight these people who are like, and so he did. And guess what? He went on the army, became a commando, came to Fort Bragg, had an opportunity to do some training as a foreign, a military guy, went back. Dude, he was amazing for a long time. And unfortunately, during a ceasefire, his unit was ambushed to observe Ramadan during a ceasefire. He was ambushed. He was shot in the heart. Then they took his body, they dismembered him, cut his head, his legs, his arms, and they sent it to my grandfather as a warning to my grandfather, because my grandfather was pretty well known during, he was a prisoner of war in the French Vietnam, Indochine. And he also was one of the main characters to the liberation of Algeria against the French. So
really,
yeah. So
I feel like we could be doing an entire show on this at this point. That's an aspect of the 20th century that people older than us are knowledgeable. It was all over the news, but I don't think people realize how big of a deal that was back then when the French lost it was happening in Vietnam as well. They lost all their colonial power.
100%.
It happened very violently. People don't realize that.
Oh, it was ugly. I mean, the French, the Algerian independence started with bombing of a restaurant with people eating in it. Terrorist act, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that was a way for them to really, push their message, and they wanted their country back. Now, the French are also geniuses. You got to give it to them. What the French do is when they realize like this is going to get really bloody, and they don't want to get into this mess, they say, okay, cool, got it. You're independent, freedom. But we have a lot invested in your country and your economy. So why don't we become business partners? That way we'll help you set yourself up for success. We're, still, working out this whole piece, and there's a good, easy transition. And in all these countries, majority of them, they still are technically pretty much owned by the French in a weird way.
Everything in Vietnam, a lot of the language you're going to see is French signs, French advertisements. And,
well, you know what the Algerians did? The last thing I'll tell you, this is the funniest thing to me. I love this story more than anything else. When they kicked the French out, they're like, screw you, we're not doing any business deals with you, get out. So then they took all the French signs, removed them, put all Arabic signs everywhere. If you landed in Algeria and try to take a taxi cab at that point, you're screwed. Why? Because 90% of these folks couldn't even read Arabic. so they had to go back and put Arabic signs with French so people could read them.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
So is that how your family ended up in France? Was the post Algerian Revolution?
Well, so my mom came in. I mean, remember, like my mom was born in 1957, still a French colony. So she's automatically, at that point, if you're a colony,
you're a French citizen, right?
You're a French citizen, which is like the beauty of now the French complain about all these immigrants in their country. We'll figure that one out, right? But I mean, why am I going to live in Algeria when I can live in Paris? Well, I mean, Algeria is great. I think it's actually a beautiful country, and it's got a hell of an economy now. But I mean, if you had an opportunity to go from one spot or like Senegal, right, to be in Paris, France, I'd probably take Paris, France.
There's definitely a little more industry there for sure.
A little bit, right? Opportunity. It's just like, it's just the way it works. But so she was born, and as a French citizen as well as Algerian, and then she moved when she was 18 years old from Algeria to France, just like the majority of her brothers and sisters. She's got 11 brothers and sisters. So that's my grandfather. To be a war hero was also in business.
Yeah, it'd be probably. Hey, let's just put it. Just put it simply. Grandpa banged. All right. Yeah.
Oh, it did a little bit of that, little here, little there.
So I'm taking this off track because that is super intriguing. But I go back to you mentioning earlier how you were watching Platoon at a very young age. You graduated high school. You went to college at IU, Indiana University at Bloomington there?
No, I did. I went to UNC Wilmington, University of North Carolina at Wilmington.
Okay.
With Mr. James at St. James out there. And then I was only there for a semester. And then I transferred to Maryland just go because I wanted a bigger challenge for track and field and academically also. I wanted to go to Maryland at that point. I wanted to get back to, closer to my teammates, friends, and my family, even though that backfired my family. Because as soon as I moved back, 6 months later, my parents moved to Wilmington. So that was
it's a nice town. It's a nice town.
Yeah, but there's I can go golf here. This is awesome.
Yeah.
What were your events in track? I'm just curious. What were your events in track and field?
Anything from really, I specialize in the 2 mile, 2 mile, but I ran anything from 800 meters to the 10K.
So everybody hated you in the Army. They had to run with you, basically.
Dude, running gave me such a massive advantage in the Army. It's unbelievable. I'll get into that, man. This is it's actually huge.
When he said that, I was like, oh my God. He's the AA, AAA group, which I never wanted to ever hang out with those guys. He's leader from the front.
So did you decide you want to do the Army while you were in college, or is that something you want to do as an adolescent? When did that seep into your head?
Interestingly, every single male in my family, served in the military, whether it's in France, Algeria, US.
You have a lot of cousins in the French military.
Yeah, my cousin is currently fighting now. I don't even know where he's at, but he's been in Africa. I think he's been in Iraq. He's they call him Mountain Warrior. So whatever the hell that is, they wear a big pizza hat and they're pretty tough. But no, I knew at 13. I mean, after my uncle was killed, I made a vow to myself. I took all my GI Joes, and I wasn't playing with that shit anymore. But I still had my little green and German soldiers, right, little figurine stuff, and I burned all that shit. And I told myself that's the last time I'll ever play war, and the next time I'll wear a uniform. And so but like anything in life, everything sort of, time heals all wounds. But I knew at an early age what I wanted to do, which was join the military. Then I had an opportunity to go run track in college, right? Scholarships. So I figured, hell, let me go get an education and let me go, and then after that I'm done, I'll serve my country, which was a huge advantage to me versus a lot of my peers is I knew exactly what I wanted to do in my life, which is so cool to go to college, not have to worry about what's next, right? I knew.
You knew you wanted to commission.
Yeah, knew I wanted to commission. I knew I wanted to join. Now, my freshman year, though, 9/11 happened, as soon as I got to school. So at that point, I almost dropped out. And the only
because you didn't want to miss out on anything.
No, well, I was pissed, bro. I was pissed.
Yeah.
I had just been naturalized as a U.S. citizen 5 months prior, right? My dad has officially adopted me, all that good stuff. And here I am, and the same type of people that terrorized my family, killed my uncle, are now killed, 2,996 people, and minus them. So screw them, right?
Yeah.
And
minus 18.
Yeah. Fuck them. In New York, in D.C., in Pennsylvania, and I was incredibly infuriated because to me that was even more personal than the majority of the folks who were not directly impacted by 9/11, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt like this was this evil was following me. And so at that point, I wanted to be a part of the solution. The only way to be a part of the solution is to be part of the forces that are going to go out there and eradicate this virus and these groups of evil. And so I almost dropped out, but my dad asked me one simple question. And he said, what is the one thing I asked of you when I gave you my name? And I couldn't remember, of course. So then he said it to me again. He says, when a Groberg starts something, he or she finishes it. Because if you find a reason to quit now, you will find a reason to quit anything else that you will start in the rest of your life, whether it's a relationship, a job, a father, right? And whatever it is. And so I hated that answer. I hated that comment. And I thought about it. At the time, remember, like, it's not like we went to war on September 12th. Some folks did. Some folks did, to be honest, but not as a country, right? It took a couple of years later to go to Iraq and all stuff. So it wasn't like the immediate need. I need to get out. Let's go. I felt that way, but, you know, I slept on it and I thought about it and I figured, shit, as soon as I'm done with school, I'm joining. And so that was the catalyst, and it solidified my plan and my pathway. At that point, I was even more comfortable knowing, boom, this is what I'm doing. Now, I had some tough moments in 2003, 4, and 5 when you start thinking about, shit, man, I want to be in Iraq. I want to be with these guys because now some of my friends went over there. Some didn't come back. So it got really incredibly personal quick.
So you waited your time out. When did you commission?
So I commissioned in 2008, and the reason why it took me so long is because it took almost 2 years for the French government to renounce my French citizenship.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. So
enlisted people are able to get them pretty easily. Is it different for the officer corps?
I couldn't get a clearance, and then I got flagged.
Oh, wow.
So they wouldn't allow me in. So when I went to MEPS, I did the whole thing, you know, and you do your SF-86, and then they, you know, obviously saw that I was French. I had a French passport and everything. So they're like, all you have to do is just return your passport, go to the French embassy, fill out some paperwork, and then once they give you a letter, come back and you should be good. That would be enough. So I did that. I did all that. And the French were like, yeah, no problem. We really appreciate the fact that you want to go serve, you know, in the U.S. Army. Wish you could do it in the French Army, which I thought was a joke. But I didn't, you know, and that didn't go so well. But long story short, it took them 6 months to actually do the paperwork. Right, that's it.
Just because of red tape?
Yeah, but then it took them over a year and a half almost for them to, no, a little less than a year and a half, about a year to send me the paperwork. And remember, this is in those days where you need to get a letter. You couldn't get an email, nothing. You need to get a letter for it. So I waited so long for it. And it was the most shitty, it was one of the shittiest times ever because every day you don't know if that letter's going to be in your mailbox. Every day you look forward to it, and every day you're disappointed. Until you get it.
You probably felt like you were in purgatory, I would imagine.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, look, it got frustrating because you know you're at the door, right? You open the door, it's open. You can't get through it. And this is what I wanted to do. And so it was really frustrating, but it taught me a little bit about patience. I'm still not great with patience, but definitely taught me a little bit about patience. And but once I got that letter, I went straight to the recruiters, went back to MEPS, did the SF-86, got the interim clearance, and then it took, you know, but I went as an officer, so then you have to go in front of a board, so it took a little bit longer. And
what career field did you go into initially?
So that's the thing. You go in as an officer, and then you go, I did basic, right? And then you go to Officer Kennedy School. So you don't have a career field. You compete for it.
I just wanted to give a big shout out that Flo and I are both from the betting school for boys. So Alpha 0201, that's right.
Okay, all right.
So him and I, when I say prepare to sing, we can sing.
We're not singing though.
We're not going to sing. The worst thing ever. It's still, to those days, I still remember that. I didn't realize you commissioned social associate, so at least I know you're a real officer. That's good.
But yeah, and so, you know, at the time, you got your nice little ascot and you compete for your job. And so after 6 weeks, I was second on the Order of Merit list, OML. And I would never forget this. You probably remember this. You kind of go up in front of the whole class and you're like, I choose infantry, right? And so like a dumbass, and I did that, fired up, because there was only 18 infantry slots for like 200 of us.
That's right.
And everybody and their mother wanted to be infantry for some reason. And so then I was super fired up about it. And I remember like calling my dad that night and saying, yo, man, I picked infantry. You know, you'd be proud. He was in a Corps of Engineers himself in Vietnam. So, and he goes, oh, so you picked Ranger School. And I didn't understand what he meant by that. I was like, no, I picked infantry. He's like, nah, we picked Ranger School. I said, okay, dude, whatever you're talking about, old Ed, you know, I got you. I about 6 months later, I realized what the hell he was talking about.
That's right. Yeah.
So straight to Ranger school.
Yeah.
Yeah, once he commissions, he goes that you're stuck on Benny. You don't really leave. You go to airborne school, you'll do everything.
Yeah.
Down there.
So yeah, I went to airborne school. I signed in airborne school July 4th, actually, July 3rd. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And then we got the 3-day weekend, and so then I went in and I absolutely completely hated airborne school. That's when I realized I was afraid of heights. That's a fucking shitty place to figure out you're afraid of heights.
Yeah, I was going to say, it took you a good, 25, 26 years at that point to figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, I can look down at a building, but man, at a certain point, when you put me in one of those little metal boxes that I work for now, or a company that makes them.
Yeah, it's a little ironic, yeah.
No kidding. But you learn quick that you have no choice. Just jump out. It's a lot easier to jump out. It's a lot less painful to jump out than trying to stay in the bird. So,
with the jump towers, I don't know when they closed. Were they open when you were there? I'm just curious.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. They're now like an historic thing. They don't use them. I heard it.
Why?
Damn.
The hell did they do?
Yeah. I don't know. They're just there for like an historic purpose now. But I don't know when it closed. I got to look it up. But somebody told me that they no longer use them.
They probably go to a gym and jump on like some nice cush pads right now, like, hey, this is nice.
Yeah, I would assume that, but yeah, I don't know why they did that, but I remember, and you'll remember this too, because I remember when we used to march around like a bunch of idiots with drum, with the ascots to and from building 4. I remember watching the jump towers because we were going to wind up going there. And I'm like, oh, and then part of me was like, I can't wait till I'm on the other side because I don't want to walk around with this ascot anymore with the stupid drum behind me. Because Jack, they used to literally have two guys with the big bass, I think it's a bass drum, I don't know, and like a thing. And they would drum us around. And that's how we would march everywhere. There was no cadence. It would literally just play a drum, and we had all keep in time for marching.
Is that just to announce that everybody's brand new, and is it like meant to?
Dude, it was everywhere. I just was like, Flo could tell you. It's the one thing that stuck out. Like basic training, whatever. I just remember just like you could hear the drum from like from miles away. So
now, Scott, we didn't have drums, thank God.
Oh my God,
yeah, thank God. I probably lost my shit.
That's how they embarrassed us. They literally, so they had 2 people they picked from the team, from the company, and like they're like, who here ever played an instrument? Like 2 people, like the whole bunch of people who played the drums, and of course it's going to be like 2 people. They're like, great, you guys get to carry these things. And the guy had the snare drum, and he had like that big, I don't know, I think it's a bass. I don't know what it's called. What I'm talking about? Like the thing.
Yeah.
And they would have to keep our beat. And as we walked down anywhere, building 4, no matter where we marched, they were in the bank and they were back and they would just hit the thing like, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. No cadence was allowed not even until senior phase, I'm thinking. But yeah, for up until that, maybe into basic and intermediate phase, we had to walk around with some guys following us with drums and nobody was allowed to speak. Everybody would look at us.
I'll tell you what, that was an interesting part. But hey, I want to go back to that one piece though. I'll tell you one thing that you asked me a question about running in the Army. And I will never forget my first PT test in the Army in basic training.
Yeah.
With the first sergeant there, and you ran down in Sand Hill, you ran down 1 mile down this road, and then you had a number in your hand or whatever it was, you give it to the sergeant at the end, and then you run back. And I ran in 9 minutes and 48 seconds, the 2 mile. And the first sergeant went ape shit on me, started smoking me, saying that I was a integrity violation, I cheated, and all that shit. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, I didn't cheat. He's like, shut up, don't talk, whatever. And so he called, he's got he called his little radio. He calls back to that guy, and he's like, did you see your guy roster, whatever? Did he give you his number? He's like, oh, you talking about the dude that was flying? He's like, yup. He's like, yeah, he made it here. Like, are you serious? So then the guy's, now he's smoking me for being fast at that point. And then he tells like, you're gonna guide on for the rest of, basic. But that plates, we won every competition in basic. We had the most phone calls, which is like 4, right?
Right.
We got the most PX runs, than anyone else. It really gave me, an opportunity. I got the leadership award and all. It's not because I was a better leader than anyone else at the time. It's just because I came in and I was just superior in athletics because I was a Division I athlete, and they associated that with being that I was disciplined. That's what they told me. They're like, no, you obviously were disciplined because you worked so hard to get to that level that obviously shows us that you're a leader. I disagree to this point that just because you're a good run doesn't make you a good leader. But I understand the fundamentals behind it.
Right. But that's typical military right there for them to, like, if you can edge someone up physically in any way, they look at you as superior on almost they won't question you until you prove them wrong, basically. Like that's, you know, in the Marines, like if you can do a lot of pull-ups, oh man, let's just promote this guy right now. We don't know anything else about him, but he can do pull-ups.
I agree.
So you go through all your schooling. What unit? What was your first assignment? And did you go straight into deployments from there?
Yeah. So I went to my school. I went to Ranger School. By far one of the best and worst experiences of my life. Got lucky. I think we started with 333. 69 of us graduated straight through. I was part of that cohort that did so. Very lucky during those phases. Good folks under me and good peers, and we just, you know, we knocked it out of the ballpark. But as soon as I graduated, so you got 62 days in this wonderful vacation center, I cleared out of Fort Benning in rapid time because my unit, I was at 4-5D 4th Brigade out of Fort Carson, was deployed to Afghanistan. So Clint Romache, he was part of that unit. So he was already in Keating. So I graduated right before Keating, Cop Keating happened. Like about
all the time is making sense now. Okay.
Yeah. So I clear post in 3 days. I drove straight to Carson, checked in to brigade, and asked them, like, you know, please put me in a unit and deploy me as quickly as possible. They're like, all right, hold on, young fucking soldier and lieutenant. Yeah. You know, like, there's a process. You got to get your shot. All that stuff. So I was in, what do you call those replacement unit? Oh my God, RIP. No, not rest in peace. Whatever you call. I was part of that group for 2 weeks. So it was pretty quick. And, you know, so, and then in the end of November, I was already in Afghanistan.
So they gave you your equipment, you BZO'd your rifle, and you were ready to go.
100%. I never fired my rifle at Carson.
You didn't do one training, training in the regular Army.
No, nothing. I just literally, I did a ruck march once with some of the replacement soldiers that were going to be deploying with me. I got to meet them, and I didn't even get a rifle. You know, my first rifle was in Afghanistan. So, and I did none of that stuff. All I did is just, you know, the paperwork and the process, right? And you go through your medicals and all that stuff. And I just kind of deployed, which I was very happy about. And so, boom, here I go. And I land a month after Ranger School. I'm in Afghanistan. And a couple weeks later, I'm leading troops in Combat Outpost Hanukkah Miracle out there in southern Kunar.
That's absolutely insane. So, crash course in leadership, I would imagine. Like, that's some OJT stuff right there.
Yeah, you know, I wrote a post years ago when I worked for LinkedIn called A Crash Course in Leadership, Shut Up and Listen. Mm-hmm. And that entire post is about my relationship with my platoon sergeant, mm-hmm. and fully understanding the fact that was the first time I was ever scared in my life, like truly scared, is when Lieutenant Colonel Pearl, our battalion commander, sat me in his office and told me that I was taking over Dagger 4 platoon and that I would have 24 men under my command and not to fuck it up because their lives were in my hands. And that's the first time I ever walked out of anything truly scared and petrified at the reality that I was facing. That now all that training, all those, you know, those courses, those schools, all that stuff, all that doctrine that they, you know, put in your head, that was coming to fruition. And I actually had the responsibility of other people under my command. So which meant that the decision I would make going forward would potentially impact whether or not people lived or died. Mm-hmm. And that was very scary to me. I called my dad. You know, I'll never forget this. I'm at Fort Blessing. I called my dad and I told him exactly what I just told you. And his response was like, are you fucking kidding me? Well, don't you ever call me that bullshit. Find your most senior NCO, tell him you're a bitch. And, you know, I didn't say that exactly. Tell him how you feel and that you need his help. and then go out there and be a man. Don't ever call me with that stuff. And he hung up on me. I was like, oh my God, this guy,
I'm seeing a pattern of very blunt language with him.
Yeah.
Blunt conversations.
Men, a few words, very wise words. But, and you know, this from his experiences, I've seen, he was a sergeant, right? So he was, you know, and he understood it. And I took that to heart. And that's when I went and talked to my platoon sergeant as soon as I got to the unit, Sergeant First Class Corey Staley. And I said, hey, you know, I'm Lieutenant Groberg. His immediately first words to me is like, I can read your name tag, sir. So I figured that was a great start. But long story short, I told him I took my pride, my ego, my rank, and put him to the side, right? And I'm here man to man, asking him for his support, his guidance, his mentorship to be the most effective leader for this platoon. I said, I will still make decisions. I'm still going to take responsibility. I'm not scared to do this, but I need you, with all years of experience, to help me mold me into the right platoon leader. And I shocked the shit out of him. So he just told me to shut up. And, you know, over the course of the next week, we'd go out on patrol. You know, you're doing your left seat, right seat. And, you know, just to listen and watch and take notes and go meet the men, figure out where they're from, why they joined the Army, but don't get too close to them. And then once we get a briefing from the CO, you know, we'll put a plan together. We'll brief it to the squad leaders, get their input, finalize it, and then he's giving me a platoon. And his leadership, single-handedly, his NCO leadership is the reason why I was successful as a lieutenant. And is the reason why I was successful in the military. Because instead of shitting on me and being another lieutenant and just kind of like doing his thing, he invested time in developing me as a brother and as a subordinate, but also as a leader. And that completely changed my life.
I think people, even in the private sector, civilians, as you will, it's just as applicable, but people underestimate the importance of mentorship in this world, especially in the military, especially as a young lieutenant. You're walking into an environment where you have a lot of, you know, you had specialists that were more experienced than you, but you're over them. It's a very complicated nature of command there, but the importance of leadership is absolutely for the platoon to succeed. You have to succeed. So they need to give you all the tools you can possibly have. And the biggest, I totally agree, 100% agree. But the biggest piece also is there's no specific pathway or person for you to be a mentor for you, right? And my entire life, my mentors have been individuals that I know that have gone through a specific set of circumstances, whether they're similar to mine or complete opposite to mine, so that way I can learn from them and, you know, ask some tough question and get some feedback. And this is a person that worked for me, right? I was his boss, and he was my mentor. Why? Because I came in there with zero experience, and he had 16 years, right? Yeah. So who's going to have? Actually, had the least amount of experience in my entire platoon. Every private had more experience than me, but I'm supposed to be the boss. So that was a very difficult time. But the last thing I'll say about this is for any our military folks, specifically young lieutenants right now who are leading, and also NCOs. You know, the one thing I did tell Staley is that we needed to be transparent with the platoon. And so when he tells me to shut up, right? I told my platoon what we're going to do. And he's like, "You sure you want to do this?" I'm like, "Absolutely." They need to know that I'm willing to follow the path, but also I'm not a bitch, right? If I don't talk for 7 days, my soldiers are gonna look at me like, this guy's scared, he's an idiot. And first impressions, you know, mean the world for everyone, especially in a combat situation. They need to know that they trust me. Yeah, and you jumped right again. You weren't there before to build that rapport with them stateside. Yeah.
Dude, they've been fighting for 4 months, right? Yeah. Here I am. I'm that guy. I'm that new lieutenant. I'm in fucking Band of Brothers. I'm that, you know, Tom Hanks' son.
The replacement,
The replacement, literally, right? They've been through the fighting season, right? And here I am. Hello, guys. So, but I needed to make sure we did it right, and we did it right. That's probably the best decision I've ever made in the military. Was that moment. Listen to my dad's advice and work in that piece with Staley. It completely changed the course and trajectory of my career, 100%, just like that in 1 hour.
So let's briefly cover the events leading up to you being wounded. And obviously, you know, if you want to, again, due to time, we can't cover this too much, but if you really want to know more about it, pick up 8 Seconds of Courage, Flo's book. You can find it anywhere on Amazon and pretty much any retail. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was, how long into your deployment were you in? Were you at that point?
Almost 7 months in.
Okay.
In a deployment.
So you were on the tail end of the deployment in general, I would imagine.
I was at that part where you're making plans for Christmas, where you're buying plane tickets and you know exactly what you're going to do, right? You're the last quarter of your deployment.
Home stretch.
You know, obviously one of the most dangerous times in the deployment, right? Because complacency kicks in when you're ready.
Complacency kills. That's the
complacency kills. But you know, and you know, we were well wired, and we were very good about that. We talked about it every single day when we do CPCS before every patrol about complacency kills. That was the saying I always said. But yeah, I was at the end of it. I was ready. I got the point. I was like, all right, a couple more months, and we're back in the States. But August 8th, 2012, it was easy mission. We're supposed to be there to the Kunar Provincial Security Meeting with Governor Wahidi. Happened every Wednesday at the same time. We didn't go every Wednesday, obviously. And on that specific day, you know, the night before, I called the unit, telling them who I was bringing. I told them I was bringing Colonel Mingus, so 2 brigade commanders, 3 battalion commanders, an Afghan general, 2 command sergeant majors, 2 State Department individuals, and a couple majors in my unit of 6, and I needed 15 individuals for an escort to go from the combat outpost Fayez and walk that 1,100-meter movement outside of wire to the security meeting.
These are a lot of individuals with big resumes that you're having to move.
Well, I mean, we had I had 2 brigade commanders in one group. This was a big deal. That would have decimated all of Eastern Afghanistan's leadership at that moment. Right. And so remember those SFAT teams? Have you heard, you know, the special, you know, like they're made up of folks who are like logistics and different MOSs, and they come in and advise with the Afghans. There are special units that came in to like work with the Afghans, training them.
Yeah.
So that was the person leading Cop Fayez was part of that group. And so he wasn't a 11 Alpha or 11 Bravo, he wasn't infantry. And so when I called him and asked him for the escort, he told me, no, we're going to walk the route 15 minutes prior, we're cleared and secured for you. So then I asked him again, he told me to fuck off. But I figured he was having a bad day and he's going to realize that his boss's boss is coming. So maybe it's a good idea for you to be at the helo site to welcome and walk with him, right? Well, I was wrong. And he took every single one of the soldiers and he walked the path, he cleared it. And guess what he did? He left. Oh. And so when we walked that route, the enemy saw, they're not stupid. They've been there for a very long time. They know how we operate, especially when you bring an Afghan general with you. They walk like they're a god. Even though this Afghan general, Hayatullah, was awesome. I really liked him. And so they saw us as a target of opportunity. And so they came at us with motorcycles for diversion and then multiple suicide bombers. My position, all this is in the book if you want to read it. And my position, I was the closest to the bomber, the first bomber, and I just kind of did my own escalation of force. Couldn't see a weapon, so couldn't engage with my rifle. They want to end up on CNN and then Leavenworth. So I left my position, screamed at him, ran at him, hit him, grabbed him, realized he has a suicide vest. And the only thing I could think of at that moment was like, man, I got to get him away from the boys as quickly as possible, as far away as possible, and throw him. When he detonated, when he hit the ground, he detonated. Obviously, it detonated. He killed 4 of my brothers: Command Sergeant Major Griffin, Major Gray, Major Kennedy, and then Reggie Abdel Fattah, one of the USAID folks. And I gotta give props to Tom Mahoney too, my RTO. When he saw me run towards that guy and hit him, he came right with me. Right, he's just
didn't give it a second thought.
No, he came with me. Right, he's just like, I'm with you. Right, and that's the beauty of the military. It's that this brotherhood is that you. I know firefighters, I know policemen, I know first responders. They're unbelievable, especially what they're doing right now fighting COVID. But it's just a special thing about the military and combat where you will do everything that you can in your power to put your life on the line to help someone else and your teammate.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and you do it day in, day out, night in, night out. You don't even think about your well-being. This is the right thing to do, and it's everything in you is so powerful.
And that's a situation that obviously went from relatively 0 to 100 like that. And that's really hard for the brain to process what's going on. And it's kind of amazing that once you realize what was going on and reacted, he probably not even knowing what was going on was able to react with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty. He got the Silver Star for it, well-deserved. It's a brother for life, you know. I think, but it's not just him. It's what Brink did. It's what Secor did. It's what Ochart did. Ochart, to me, is the most impressive one because he was a guy that I love this man. He was young. He was private first class, and he was sent to my unit after a traumatic event when they were on a patrol with ANA. And he was with one of the infantry units, and one of the ANA turned his rifle on his platoon leader and shot him in the head while they were doing a KLE, key leader engagement. And so this is one of the guys that they had been training with for 3 months, turned and killed the lieutenant right in front of Ochart. And I fucked with Ochart hard because he felt responsible for not being able to kill that guy prior. And I told him, man, it's just life. And it's the ugliness of war. And there's nothing you could have done, right? No one can predict what this is. He's supposed to be an ally that turn around and do this. So anyway, on that patrol, what's really interesting is I had an unbelievable platoon sergeant in Sergeant First Class Brian Brink. And when I didn't have that unit, the unit to escort us on the ground, I looked at him, and we both had the same thought. This is fucked up. And so I changed everything that day, the way we organize ourselves, the way we put people in a diamond. I put myself in the rear, and I'm in the front. I was always in the rear because I wanted responsibility. If something happened, you could collapse on a principal, right? So you put them down away, and then you drag them away to safety. And I wanted that responsibility. But then I went to Ochart, who's a little bit taller and stronger than me. I said, I want better eyes on, so you're taking my job. I said, if you see anything wrong, I don't care what it is. You grab the boss, which is, Colonel now the 82nd Division Commander, and you take him the complete opposite way of danger.
Mm-hmm.
Got that? He's like, roger that. So when I started moving towards that bomber, guess what he did? He grabbed Mingus and went the opposite way. And Mingus and him were one of 2 people who did not get hurt. Okay. I mean, they had concussions, but no shrapnel, nothing. Because he did his job. And to me, that is the most impressive thing in this whole piece, is that he listened and reacted as well. Everyone was in cohesion. Everyone knew their job and did their part, and that saved lives. Mahoney, Ochart, Secor, Balarama, Brink, right? All these guys doing their part saved lives. And that's what the beauty of the military is, that we are our best in some of the toughest and most austere of situations. And so that's what happened. That's why August 8, 2012, is very important. That's why I also called it 8 Seconds of Courage, because that's the beauty and the irony in this whole thing, is that you can train your whole life, go on multiple deployments, but all it takes is a few seconds to completely change your life. And you're back to your life. How did I react? Why did I react that way? And what could I have done better? Or am I proud of the way we reacted? And then that leads to my injuries. And I think you wanted to get there too, where I spent the next couple of months of my life as an inpatient at Walter Reed, and mixed in with the drugs, ketamine, oxy, Dilaudid. I blame myself for losing those guys. And I was very angry at myself. And I tried to replay the scenario over and over again. And I was lucky enough that the Gold Star families came to me, embraced me, gave me love, told me that they were just proud of me, that I did the right thing.
I don't know, I wouldn't call that rare, but I would assume it's not common for you to build that relationship so early on afterwards. So it's very unique circumstances, that a unique relationship that you have with them, kind of meeting them so early on.
I think so. I mean, it was tough, but it saved my life in essence. Also, they're part of the reason I'm still on this earth, because I had some very dark and negative thoughts in my head. And, I promised them that I will do everything that I can the rest of my life to earn the right to still be on this earth. to represent them and their loved ones who, passed away, and to make sure that that I deserve it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I talk about August 8, 2012, every time I talk about my military background or my military history, I always bring up their names because that's the most important part of my entire journey. And you know how that is, right? Your friends don't get to come home. It's just, we're badasses. We'll go out there, we'll fight, we'll get dirty, we'll eat shit. But once one of our friends takes it, that's the hardest thing we ever have to deal with. And because part of it, we're also selfish, but we're also human, which means that you realize that could have been me. Maybe that should have been me instead of them, or why them, and why did I deserve to still be here? And so that's the toughest question, but that's freaking life, man. That's combat and that's life. We don't get to dictate when it's our end, right? That's something greater than us.
And it's a tale as old as time. And what you were going through in Walter Reed, while the technology and the circumstances and the war had changed, it's really the same thing a young soldier was going through 60 or 70 years ago, laying in a hospital bed in France, or Italy or Germany. It's the same thing that from every nationality in every period, soldiers have had to kind of reckon with what they've gone through.
Yeah, it's a tough reality. But my eyes were open with people like Travis Mills, Derek Wada, even Cal Carpenter, right? All these guys that suffered, and many more. Freaking Jason Pock that I work with at Boeing now, lost both his legs. And these folks really motivated me and opened my eyes in my darkest times to realize that, hey man, I'm blessed. Like, this could have been a lot worse. And I need to stop complaining about my injuries. And that changed my life.
I noticed the first time you and I met was in 2016 at Walter. We went to Walter Reed the same day that we met, and it was very apparent early on. We were screening the film, and it was very apparent that you had a very special connection with Walter Reed. Like, you were giving kind of an ad hoc tour of the place. You knew the place like the back of your hand. Obviously, you spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
But it was very apparent that you had a very special connection with the staff there and obviously the patients who were in there at the time. And luckily, during 2016, the amount of combat wounded had decreased there dramatically.
Yeah, it's a huge part of my life. I spent, years recovering, and I end up working for the Defense Intelligence Agency based off my time at Walter Reed, and so much. And I spent my darkest days in that place, and I came out stronger because of the place and the folks in it. And so I 100% respect what they do and understand the difficulties, because they had to deal with people like me, which was very hard to do so for a while. But I also understood that the power of a good smile and laugh, and what you guys did on that specific day when Range 15, when you screened it, was so powerful. It was the first time I saw some of these guys actually, right? And they were able to just let go for a second, meet you guys. They were big stars for them, right? And truly feel excited about what they've gone through. And for 1 second in their lives, they felt lucky to be in that place. Because they got to be there with you.
It's amazing just being on when you're on deployment and you could be in the middle of nowhere. It's somebody putting a movie into their laptop and everyone huddling around and watching a movie.
So true.
It's amazing. There's this brief period of time where you forget where you're at, and it's the best possible feeling. Even when you come out of it and you realize where you're at, you feel good knowing that you were able to escape it just for an hour or so.
I agree.
Now, I'm not aware of this part of your story. When you were informed that you were going to be receiving the Medal of Honor, were you still in the Army at that point, or were you already done and discharged?
I was out. Yeah.
What were you doing?
So,
you were in the Maryland, D.C., DMV area, correct?
Yeah. I was working for a special unit in the clandestine services part of the 3-letter E's. And I was actually in Area 51 right next to it, doing some helo inserts, working with different folks from military forces to our, spies. And and it was awesome, man. I was in heaven for a little while because I never, I'll be honest with you. I left the Army. People are like, yeah, you never got anything for August 8th? Nah, don't care, man. Didn't join the Army for any reward. I just wanted to be out. I wanted to be out. I wanted my ratings. I wanted to be out. I wanted to, move on from August 8th at that moment and continue serving in a different fashion. And so here I was, and that's that call from Colonel Slaney at the Pentagon asking me if I would be willing to take a call at 2 o'clock, 1400 from the Pentagon, between 1400 and 1430. And I thought, I was like, shit, did I do something in Afghanistan? Like that I'm being investigated on? Like, you know what I mean? I was like scared.
Bro, you're the third person I know with a Medal of Honor who has said that exact same thing.
Yeah, well, you don't know, man.
Everybody thinks they're about to get charged with something.
Like the statement charges about to come out from all those years. The receipt, the hand receipt came back for them. They want to give us some money, basically.
Hey, you want to hear something funny right now? Eric Prince, you know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Just shot me a message on LinkedIn right now as this thing just popped up. This thing's just such a crazy world. Yeah.
He knows a little something about controversy, yeah.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, instead of being investigated for that, I actually was President Obama calling me to inform me that I'd be receiving the Medal of Honor. So
they didn't even tell you it was going to be the president you were talking to?
No. Hell no.
Did they say, hold on?
Did you think it? Yeah, well, did you think it was real?
I was going to talk to you, or how did that work?
So the guy that I was working for was a colonel in the Special Forces for the unit I was with. And he was like, listen, first of all, take the day off. And then he's like, there's two possible outcomes. One, you did something really stupid and they're going to call you and tell you that you're going to be investigated. He's like, highly unlikely, probably would have had CID show up here and take, he's like, or two, you're probably going to get an award. And so at the time, remember, I was never put in, I didn't know I was putting for the Medal of Honor. I knew that I was putting for the Distinguished Service Cross. Mm-hmm. Now, there had been rumblings about my Distinguished Service Cross being upgraded to a Medal of Honor in a process, but denied. So that was what we had heard in February of 2015, that it was denied. And so, and because people were asking, questions like, how long is it going, why don't you have this award? I had no idea. So, but HRC, so I had someone in HRC gave me that information. And I was cool with it. I was like, that's cool, but whatever, I don't care. So we kind of figured, more than likely Pentagon Distinguished Service Cross or silver or whatever. And so when I picked up the phone, it rang at 1400 on the dot, and it said, this is so-and-so from the White House, would you mind holding for the president? I was like, oh shit. Like, okay. And then, it was Big O who called me, and I'd met him a few times prior to that. And so, and he was so cool about it. Like, I don't care what anybody feels about him. To me, he's a mentor, and I respect the hell out of him. This is what I told him. Right after I met him, I never voted for you. So, but
I've never heard of anybody having, politics aside, I've never heard of anyone having any dealing with him and having a bad word to say about him as far as meeting him, whether it be casually or for whatever reason. Everyone that I've ever met that has met him, no one's ever had a bad thing to say about him as a person, at least.
Yeah, well, I respect the hell out of him. I think, he did something good at the end. I'll politicize this thing a little bit. At the end of his second term, he finally started getting it in terms of supporting our military and be a big voice for our military. I wish that would happen in 08, 09, right? But it's just the way the world works, right? He's a human being, right? And it's the hardest job in the world.
He's a lawyer from Chicago. He didn't come from a background where he was dealing with things like the Pentagon and everything like that.
Yeah, and it's but no matter what, even our current president, this is the hardest job in the world. It's the hardest job in the world. So you need to, it's not like good luck you going out there and try to freaking lead the free world. There's so many different
they age situations.
Fast. So like,
all of them.
And yeah, they do, and so hell of a lot of respect. But and that was that part, and that completely changed my life again. Right, I could no longer work for the unit I was working for. So
because you become at that point they're already writing your Wikipedia pages, right? You become a little high profile.
Who the fuck writes Wikipedia pages? Because my Wikipedia page was there in less than like 2 minutes.
That's crazy. No, was it accurate at least? Was it close? Or when you read it?
It was okay. It said some weird shit in there. And then as soon as I spoke at the DNC in 2016, right, they wrote a line that I went directly against Trump. So, and I was on it for a long time. I kept deleting it.
That was not your intentions at all for speaking. You wanted to have a platform to talk about veterans issues in the military.
RN invited me. DNC invited me to go speak, about veterans. Of course, at that point, now you're associated with this whole piece. But you know what? I'll tell you what. To all, and some people are going to hate it, but I spent a lot of time with Walter Reed. And yes, I saw Hillary Clinton come to Walter Reed with no fanfare, no cameras, no nothing, and spend multiple hours with Gold Star families and also wounded families. She spent a lot of time with my mom. And so
this was when she was I don't remember the timeline. Was she Secretary of State at the time? Okay.
Yeah. And so I saw a different side from her. I put pause, whatever she emails, all that stuff, right? And Benghazi, I have a different take on Benghazi. Some people would disagree, but guess who was my bunkmate for, like, literally next door is David, right? And David is played by that black guy in the movie 13 Hours. Yeah. So I got the whole Benghazi story pretty damn accurate from the horse's mouth there. Yeah. And there's a little bit, and he, he spent some time with her and talking to her and good stuff, right? And so I had a different vision and view. And so when they asked me to speak about veterans, I said no. And then at the end, I thought about it. I said, you know what, screw it. Let's go talk to one of the biggest stages in the world about the importance of having
huge platform
about veterans. And so I did that. Of course, I got thousands of hate messages, but
because they don't realize no matter who's elected, we need to have advocates working with or in the White House for veterans and for the military as well, obviously, but like that's what a lot of people who veer too far to any political spectrum, they don't realize that just because you're associated with someone, it doesn't necessarily mean you endorse them across the board, but they give you a platform to help people you need to help or want to help.
That's exactly what it was to me. And guess what? I support the Commander-in-Chief and the President of the United States, whether it's Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, Tea Party. I respect the seat, I respect the position, I respect the president. All right, and I will always serve the president in our country. So that is the beauty and the freedoms that I was provided in the United States, this country, and I fought for is to go out there and, be supportive of something. To me, it's veterans. It's what I'm all passionate about. So anyway, I got a lot of hate comments. Apparently, some of my favorite ones were like, "Oh, he's Obama's son," and they both form Al Qaeda. So that was like, it's also crazy shit. I lost a couple of friends over it, but it's okay. I made friends like you. You guys never judge me.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah. They weren't your friends in the first place. If they're not your friends now, because you did that.
Fact. I mean, this is what it is.
What's terrible is, obviously you received this medal, and this is not like an athletic or business endeavor that you sought out, right? This isn't or any type of celebrity that you sought out. It's just it's a result of something you were involved with, and I would imagine people think they own you because of the medal. They think that you owe them something, right? And when you're yourself and you march the beat of your own drum as any human being should, it offends them because to them that medal it's a way to propagate however they feel. They think they own it basically, and they think they own you.
But the biggest piece is this: I didn't go there with the medal. And I never said I'm a Medal of Honor recipient in my speech. I said I'm an immigrant, I'm a veteran.
Yes.
And I don't come here as a Democrat or a Republican. I come here as a veteran. And that was my that was my justification of being on such a big stage. But, bro, that day changed my life. It's the first time in my life that I ever saw, I think his name is Lance Bass from Boyz II Men or whatever it was, staring in my eyes. Yeah. He was right in front of me right there. I remember him being there in that crowd. And I'm like, God, it's that dude, man. He's like, he stopped looking at me. I was like, felt uncomfortable. But and I'd be up behind me, you got Katy Perry, you know, and you got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, president. It's just like it was ridiculous setting ever. And then to my left there, people call me a baby killer, right? It was awesome. It was crazy.
No.
The Sanders people were angry at me. I don't know why.
Oh, geez. Some of them can be fringe, I would imagine. No, I have a question. Wait, were you more starstruck by Katy Perry and Lance Bass, or the President of the United States when you first met him?
I think Obama, man. When I met Obama, I met Obama on September 11th, 2012, the day of Benghazi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he still came to see us, and he came and he asked everyone of his posse, every room that he went into, to leave. He asked if you guys want, as a photographer for us only, if you can tell the photographer to leave. And he spent 10 minutes in my room, and just to have him in a room, that was the first president I'd ever met, was just unreal. And he was just so chill. So that was probably the biggest piece. That's the top piece there. And then, meeting 43, he's a Bush. And
he is, again, you always have to take politics aside, and you have to put those personal feelings of politics aside. But he's a likable guy.
Oh, he's amazing. I would drink beers with him any day, 100%.
There's a reason why him and Ellen are best friends. He's just a likable guy to be around.
He's funny, man. Like, he's truly funny. And I feel like after he got done being president, he was able to be himself, Yeah. You know what, though? I mean, you're going to look at, in the end, all you're going to look at is Bush. You're going to see 9/11 and the Iraq War. That's all you're going to see. And then I think you're going to end up seeing Trump with the China piece. You're not even going to forget the whole Russia stuff. It's going to be China and this pandemic. I think this pandemic is going to be on, this how you're going to remember these folks. And people are going to disagree on both presidents, how they reacted and acted, right? Whether it was good or bad. And that's just, and, if you look at Obama, right? I said this, is the hardest part for me was getting out of Iraq so fast. I just thought we made a wrong turn. And that, to me, that's how I define his first term, right? And then, so just life, but it's difficult. But I think Obama was by far the biggest. Lance Bass was just odd. I just felt really weirded out for a second. I was just like, God.
He's just like, this guy's too pretty to be real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he is.
The last time I saw you, you were still living in D.C., but tell us what you've been up to lately. So you've moved out west.
Yeah,
You're married.
I moved out west, Seattle area. I work for Boeing. I've been working for Boeing for almost 4 years now. I ran their veterans programs. I became chief of staff of Boeing commercial airplanes. And now I work in the sales marketing piece, specifically dealing with Russia and Central Asia as a deputy vice president. And they took a lot of risk on me, in my opinion, because I didn't have an engineering degree. I didn't have aerospace industry background.
Right. That's not your background at all. Yeah.
But they looked at my military background and they said, you know what, you bring a lot to the table, and we do believe that you'll be able to learn material and the business, naturally, but your skill set, your organizational skills, your leadership skills, all that good stuff put together into a package is going to be very beneficial to our group. And so I got to be chief of staff for a $65 billion business with 70,000 employees.
And that's what I was going to say. I would imagine putting you in there as I'm sorry if I get the title wrong or the position wrong, the veterans hiring coordinator, you said?
Well, I ran, no, not the hiring piece. I ran the
recruiting
house, all investments. I ran veterans affairs for Boeing. Yeah.
So, but I would imagine that helped you garner a reputation within the company that you could handle certain things. So if they were going to promote within, you had already learned this, the inner workings of the company for a while.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's a huge business, right? You're talking about,
gigantic.
I got an opportunity. The first thing I told him I needed, as soon as I got into the job, within a week, I said, I need $2 million because I want us to be presenting sponsors for the Warrior Games in Chicago. And they're like, what? I told him, I was like, this is going to be next level. You're going to see. And then in the end, we partnered with the Navy, we partnered with the city of Chicago, and with Fisher House, became, on the nonprofit president sponsor, we became a corporate president sponsor. For $2 million, put 9 months of work nonstop with our folks and resources. We put 22,000 people in Soldier Field. Had a Clarkston and the other guy from The Voice, I forget his name, country singer. Did a concert. Did my boy John Stewart was the MC. We had all, every.
He's another one of those guys that everybody likes. He's just a super likable guy.
He's amazing, but because he walks the walk, man.
Yeah, he does a lot for the best.
He walks the walk, and then we put 22,000 people in a stadium. They got to watch an unbelievable opening ceremonies, and after that, we went around all the city of Chicago, United Center, Soldier Field, at great events. Raised so much money, and at the Warrior Games, it was amazing. And then after that, some of the cool things we did. We did a big partnership with U.S. Stone and Pathfinder for veterans transitioning, veteran spouses transition out of the military based on base. We put millions of dollars. And then we committed $25 million in over a 3-year period for just specifically veteran-owned nonprofits and VSOs to support. Also, while committing 1.7 million hours to volunteer from our employees into our community. So, yeah, I had an awesome team. It's cool because I came into a company that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel was there. What I had to do is just kind of realign it and bring the right resources around it. And then as a group and as a team, we managed to, grow it and something cool out of it. And today, Jason Pop runs it. He's awesome. He's amazing. And we're just doing some great things. We still work a little bit on how do we tell our story so people know what we're actually doing. But yeah, that was it.
And I would imagine, it's a very fulfilling thing to be able to kind of give back by working in that kind of environment, not just for such a huge company, but obviously you're getting to give back to veterans quite a bit within the organization. You have a lot of resources to do so.
That's the biggest piece, man. veterans and spouses and even active military, and it's to back the fact that you have the Boeing company, you have at the time, a big a bank account and to support, but most importantly is the resources and the belief from the leadership in it. That's the biggest piece. Like, you got to have your CEO and your chairman, the board, all those top folks to believe in the mission, because without them, you can go so far. And so they did, and it's been good.
For a company like Boeing, too, it's advantageous to hire veterans, especially considering the large presence aviation has, in the military. I would imagine veterans are big contributors, have historically been big contributors at a company like that.
Yeah, I mean, 15% of our workforce, that's a big number for us, too.
Yeah.
Our veterans, right?
That's disproportionately high compared to the rest of industry.
Absolutely. So here we are, and we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Because some of the best people that we have in our company are veterans, and a lot of them have experience, but it's just the mindset too that our veterans bring to the table. And so, and the spouses too, that's the big thing too about hiring the spouses as well. And I think we all understand that piece. BirdBiz is a great. BirdBiz does a hell of a job, and as part of the introduction, right? You're talking about BirdBiz, talk about veterans, talk about spouses. You can never forget spouses. So that's just incredibly important. But and that's how we feel, and that's the way America should be. That's the way every company should go about it. There's an advantage to hiring our veterans. You're hiring people who committed to something greater than themselves in the end, whatever the reason why they went in the military. So that just tells you just a little about their character. It also tells you that you're committing to people who are adaptable and who can be molded, right, with the right type of guidance, leadership, and training. And then finally, you're bringing in people who are mission-centric. It's not about them in the end. They just want to go out there and be part of something good and bigger than themselves. And that's cool. That's why I always will hire veterans. Not saying every veteran's right.
Right.
There's some bags, quite a few of them.
Quite a few,
yeah. But that's on you to do the right vetting process. But give them a shot. Listen to their story. Don't judge them based on freaking resume. And by the way, resumes should be obsolete. You should not do. We have way too many system, from LinkedIn to all that stuff, right? To go out there and completely get rid of resumes.
And I would imagine, and are you a big fan of face-to-face?
I'm a big fan of, I like face-to-face, but what I'm a big fan of is hearing a story. I want to know, like, yeah, I get it. A resume tells me what, some of the stuff you did, but I've never hired anyone based off of the resumes. I haven't. I refuse to do it. I hire people based on a conversation. Because if one conversation, I'll know their commitment level, I'll know what they want to do, who they are. Really, what's important to me is their character and how they're going to fit in with the team. And you can tell, arrogance and assholes real quick, right? And sometimes I've been, considered arrogant, and that's, and I didn't represent myself correctly, and that's on me to fix myself. So it's just the way it is. But yeah, I just went on a tangent here. No big deal.
We're listening. The good thing about this is we don't have a set time. We have a general time. But with that general time, Scott,
we're past that, by the way.
We're past the general. We're inching past it. Yeah, Scott, is there anything that you wanted to ask or add?
No, just the one thing I would want to state is, Flo, if you're not the American dream, I don't know what is, right? I mean, if we talk about from where you came from, your background, to where you talk about from being an immigrant, coming here, not knowing the language, and then taking advantage of every possible situation of being patriotic and going everything. And then, of course, all the way up to the incredible part of being a Medal of Honor recipient, and then being very successful with Boeing and then everything else. The reality is I just want to say that if that's not the American dream, Jack and Flo, I don't know what is. Like, there is 100%. I'm not sure. If people want to talk anything else in the world,
wait, I thought the
American dream.
I thought the American dream was eating McDonald's every single day.
Well, he started there. Look where he wound up.
Yeah.
That enticed him. I mean, your dad was a great salesman. He knew exactly how to get you. And
he was. That's what he was.
And then he got you to go do that. So wait, I didn't. Maybe I missed it. So did you meet Michael Jordan?
He walked by me. Well, I was at UNC Wilmington one time, so technically it happened.
That's right. He's from Eastern North Carolina. That's right.
You walked past greatness and you felt it. I'm sure. That's all I'm going to say.
Listen, I did something with a president that was after Bill Clinton and before Obama, and I can't talk about it yet. And then that team promised me that I'm going to have my meeting with Michael Jordan at some point. So
I was going to ask if you could take back meeting the president. You've met a few presidents actually, but if you could take back meeting any of the past presidents and swap them out with Michael Jordan, would you take that opportunity?
No.
Okay. All right. Respect.
No.
Respect.
You know what? I'm very. There's something about the seat of the presidency that's just so important to me. And that it's just the biggest honor you can ever have, right? Because these people, no matter what you think of them, have done so much in their lives to be put in that position. It's unbelievable to become elected president of this country, or any country, really. Right. And that to me is just so phenomenal. Now, I just hope that they do the right thing with it, right? That's the end. But so no. And, Michael Jordan, though, I held a lot of respect. He does a lot. And it would be an honor to meet him and shake his hand, or just if he walks by me again. But no, you know what, man? It's just like life. I'm just grateful for whatever I've been presented in front of me, and people I've met, and the friends I've made. And just, it is what it is. But now, if you said Brian Urlacher, I'd change that a couple presidents, I'll switch over, but just kidding. I met Brian. I met Brian.
I mean, he's been retired. He's been retired for a few years. He's still looking like he could put on a helmet.
He's got that hair now, though.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go in that Scott. That American dream piece. I agree, but I also put a little asterisk to it and a little caveat to it. Yeah. The American dream to me is not about coming here and be able. And it's just going to happen, right? Because of the country, the way things are processed here, the opportunities. It's about what you do with those opportunities. That's the beauty about this country. But you got to work hard for it. It's not going to come easy. You're going to have to suffer. But when someone provides you with an opportunity, you got to walk through that door. You got to be willing to take that chance, and you got to be willing to fail and learn from it and get back up. That's how we succeed in this country. It's not free. I hate when people say it's free. You got to earn that shit. And so I was blessed and lucky to have Larry, my dad, give me the opportunity to come here in this country. But he also paved the way and he taught me how to go through it. But he also allowed me to fail. And then he told me I had to earn it every step of the way. And, I had a lot of financial bills coming out of college, right? Because the scholarship was zero pretty much, for track and field, little. And I had debt like crazy and all that stuff. And I maneuvered my way. I worked 30 hours a week in college while being a Division I athlete and going to school. And also trying to have a social life, right? I worked my ass off my entire life, everywhere I went to make it. I still do today. That's why I'm working like this, big corporate American company and trying to earn my way through.
That's how you can afford your way through Seattle.
That's another reason.
But coming from DC, I can't imagine it'd be a lot worse if you were maybe coming from, Atlanta or San Antonio. I mean, DC is still, you were living in a nice place too.
It's like comparable. I mean, in the end, it's almost the same. There's like housing's more expensive here, food's more expensive here. I had no state income tax, which is huge here. You know that out there in Texas.
I know. We got to get you down here in Texas one of these days.
We will. As soon as this thing's up, I'm flying out there. 100%.
We'll go ride some dirt bikes at Jared's place. Jared, he needs company.
I want Botox.
I think we're going to wrap it up here. Flo Groberg, from young man slugging it out on the streets of Paris to American Army soldiers slugging it out in Afghanistan to Boeing employees slugging it out in the office. Seriously, thank you so much for coming on here, man.